The January transfer window is absolutely crucial for Wolverhampton Wanderers to get right this season. Not only in their hopes of staying in the Premier League, which are very, very slim, but also with regards to succession planning for when ultimately it feels like inevitably they'll be going to the Championship. Now, in my opinion, Wolves are very likely to lose Andre and Joao Gomez in that midfield. But they're going to need someone who's a bit of a different profile and definitely someone that's championship proven ahead of next season. Now, I do think they could do far worse than bringing someone in now, giving them a few months of Premier League experience, getting relegated with them, and then ultimately they've got one of the players that is going to be at the very top of the Championship. So in this video, we're going to be speaking about Middlesbrough midfielder Aidan Morris. Now, this is not going to go down well with Borough fans, of course, with the likes of Rob Edwards obviously coming to Wolves, and that all ending very sourly, but let's speak about him nonetheless. Now, Aidan Morris is 24 years old. He is a US international and he is an absolutely brilliant player. Now, rightly so, Hayden Hackney gets all the plaudits in that Middlesbrough midfield and in that Middlesbrough team really at the moment, despite the likes of Tommy Conway contributing to goals and players in and around that team. Morgan Whittaker also been very much improved so far this season as well, ahead of last season. And generally, there's a lot going on at the club and a lot more players that are covered. However, Aidan Morris for me has been absolutely exemplary this season. As a midfielder, he's got everything that I think a lot of Premier League teams are crying out for, and also a lot of Championship teams are crying out for, to be honest. He's got such a nice tempo to his game, and he's such a brilliant midfielder when it comes to his passing. He has an excellent range of passing. He wants to get on the ball, and he's more of a pass-first midfielder as opposed to a ball carrier and someone that, is not going to progress the ball for you in terms of his running more often than not, but he's someone that's going to play that ball forward as soon as he gets it. He's not like a Joao Gomez or an Andre, where as much as I like them, I think Joao Gomez carries the ball very well, but I don't think he actually progresses the ball with his passing very well. I don't think he's brave enough. I don't think he's adventurous enough in his passing. And Andre very much the same. A lot of the times this season, really, it's been frustrating for me, and I'm sure many of you watching. They love to pass the ball between each other. They love to pass it backwards. They don't really play it forward that much or into the forward players or make things happen. But Aidan Morris absolutely can do that and has done that numerous times this season. Now, one thing that's very interesting, of course, he has only 2 assists this season. But as I say, he's a midfielder that does pass first, and he's not heavily reliant on making those forward runs all the time, despite obviously if you look at the game between Norwich and Middlesbrough earlier in the season, he gets one of his assists there and he does so well to bomb on, get into the box and make things happen, and generally he's comfortable at doing that, but he just hasn't been asked to do that too much in this current Middlesbrough system. But let's speak a bit about Aidan Morris in terms of his in-depth sort of statistics and underlying numbers, because I think it's very, very, very interesting. As you can see here, he's not a particular goal threat. Obviously, 0 goals this season so far. And that's generally not his game. Of course, he's not being asked to do that. So that's more of the Hayden Hackney role. Someone that's going to contribute going forward and making those late runs, box crashing, all that sort of good stuff that you want to see from an all-action midfielder like Hayden Hackney. But as you can see, the numbers when it comes to the offensive side of the game aren't absolutely outrageous for Middlesbrough this season, and for Aidan Morris specifically, of course. Now, however, I think it's very interesting that we do look at his assisting, his passing and his chance creation stats, because these are absolutely exceptional, to be quite honest. He's in the top 1% for passes per 90, 68.6 passes per 90 on average this season across the board. Absolutely brilliant. And I think it's very important that he completes a ridiculous amount of his passes. He very rarely gives the ball away, and that's what I love about him. I think in this Wolves side there are a lot of players that give the ball away loosely and cheaply. I think even players like Matheus Mane, who I absolutely love, he's one of them players, because he wants to make things happen, he does give the ball away cheaply. But Aidan Morris isn't risk averse with his passing. He plays the ball forward and wants to progress the ball, but he doesn't shy away from playing a difficult pass. And when that pass often comes off, it's successful. It really is, and he's a player that I really do like. Now, as you can see there as well, 91.47% pass completion rate in the top 1% for the Championship as well. Absolutely ridiculous numbers across the board, really, for a midfielder, and something that Wolves are really missing in the middle of the park. I think Arias has had a few games in the middle of the park this season, and he's looked a lot better since he's moved there, but he's not someone that particularly is brave in his passing, I wouldn't say. I think he does give the ball away a lot, sort of too cheaply at times as well. And I think when you look at Andre and Joao Gomez, I think they're 2 midfielders that, as I say, are very risk averse and want to just almost retain possession as opposed to actually doing anything with it in the offensive phases of play. Anyway, when it comes to the dribbling and offside stats as well, as you can see here, he's in the top 12% for successful dribbles this season. Now, this is really, really impressive for me. 22 successful dribbles so far this season. And overall, there's not many players in the league, in my opinion, in the middle of the park that can do what he can do across the board. I think he's so clever. I think he's a player that not only when he gets on the ball and dribbles with it, he often wins fouls. And as you can see there, he's in the top 1% for fouled against. 2.93 per 90, which is quite frankly ludicrous. I think Joao Gomez is quite good at winning a foul as well, but as I say, next season I very much doubt that him or Andre are in that midfield. And if Wolves are to go down, as unlikely as it is that Middlesbrough will sell Aidan Morris to Wolves, I think it would be an absolutely incredible pickup if Middlesbrough do not go up to the Premier League next season, because it's likely, in my opinion, that Wolves will come straight back up depending on the ambition of the owners, quite frankly, and what they can do behind the scenes. Now, as you can see here as well, he's very, very smart. He's got 0 yellow cards and 0 red cards, but he has 1.49 fouls per 90, which, if that doesn't tell you what Wolves need in the middle of the park, then I don't know what does. Wolves have got, this season, in my opinion, they've been far too guilty of not being street smart enough, not being wise enough, and often you see them giving fouls away that are, quite frankly, either blatant yellows or they're just stupid fouls. Whereas Morris, for me, he gives away fouls in great positions. He also gains fouls himself in great positions, as I've said. And generally, he's a player that I personally think is so street smart, for a player that really you wouldn't associate that with an American player. Typically, stereotypical American players that come to England, a lot of them do struggle in terms of the physicality, in terms of the physical demands, in terms of what they sort of are facing every week. It's very, very tough task for a few of those players, and I think Aidan Morris passes those tests absolutely exceptionally, to be honest. Now, in terms of his defensive stats as well, brilliant across the board. A player that, he's not frightened of getting stuck in, as I've just briefly mentioned, and as you can see there, he's in the top 6% for the Championship. 4 ground duels won this season with 7.24 per 90, which again, absolutely freakish numbers and so impressive. And it's a bit mad, really, that you see that Hayden Hackney's getting all the plaudits because of his numbers. When you look at players like this, and without Aidan Morris, I don't think Hayden Hackney has a successful season as much as he is having, to be quite honest. And as you can see there as well, he's in the top 9% for tackles this season, 2.61 per 90. So a player that's not picked up any cards this season and has had as many tackles and fouls as he's had is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant to see, in a player that Wolves could really value, in my opinion, in that midfield next season, given the fact that, let's be honest, a lot of them will leave. It's just finding clubs that actually want them. And of course, he's in the top 19% for ground duels as well, just throwing that in there as well, 12.4 per 90. So overall, pretty much an all-action midfielder when it comes to everything in the defensive side of the game. I think he could do more going forward, but he's never been asked to really do it, so who knows? He could absolutely excel in that as well, in my opinion. For me, the most impressive performance of the season from Aidan Morris, or certainly one of them, despite being so consistent across the board, is the game against West Bromwich Albion. Of course, many of you will be glad to hear that, I'm sure. But Aidan Morris, for me, in that game was absolutely brilliant. Now, take it with a pinch of salt. He was against a brand new side, coached by Eric Ramsey, of course, a very defensive side, a very sort of strange side as well, with the likes of Mikey Johnston, a player that I'd also think Wolves could potentially try and get in for, playing at right wing back. They're probably the best creator in the Championship, in my opinion, certainly as a winger or a wide man this season, playing as a right wing back. Notoriously plays as a left winger, so that seemed absolutely insane to me. And obviously the midfield he was up against was Callum Styles, who has had some decent games in midfield, to be honest, and obviously plays there for Hungary, but generally isn't a player that should be playing there in a Championship season for a side like West Brom, in my opinion. And then Christian Bielik, again, a player that, he played in midfield for that first half, and then as soon as he moved to centre-back, they conceded 4. Not in that game, of course, but in the game after. Anyway, I think Christian Bielik is not a midfielder. He's played there a lot at the Championship level, but he's just not good enough for me. I don't think he gets on the ball enough. I don't think he turns enough. I don't think he's a player that is mobile enough. Anyway, Aidan Morris in that game for me was particularly impressive, not only with regards to his passing, as you can see there, 89% pass accuracy in that game, created 2 chances as well, which is just brilliant, as I was just saying there and alluded to, that I think he can do it all if he's being asked to do it. I think if he's being asked to play a bit further forward, he's being asked to do a lot more going forward. I think it's very, very interesting that he can do that, and I do think he's a player that is capable of doing that as well. Now, as you can see there as well, 0.16 expected goals, 0.32 expected assists in that game alone. 3 defensive contributions as well, didn't really have to do much. Borough were very comfortable in that game. Ultimately, at 2-0 up, they were absolutely breezing the game. West Brom did make somewhat of a comeback, but then ultimately Delano Bergzorg obviously got the winner late on. And Charlie Taylor, quite frankly, was dreadful. But generally in that midfield for me, I thought he absolutely ran it the other night. 109 touches, bearing in mind his average this season is something like 68, so that is absolutely ludicrous in itself. 5 touches in the opposition box, 20 passes into the final third. As I briefly alluded to there, he is so good at playing those forward passes, making things happen, and he is adventurous with his passing that I do think would be a massive asset for Wolves next season if they were to come down. And as you can see there as well, he only misplaced one long ball the whole game, which is very, very impressive. Now, 3 tackles as well as that, 6 recoveries, 6 out of 6 ground duels won, and he was fouled 3 times. It's probably one of the best championship midfield performances I've seen in a long time, and generally this season as well. It's absolutely up there with the best. I think he's been absolutely brilliant overall this season, of course, and he's been great in other games as well. The Norwich one, of course, springs to mind, although it was only a 2-1 win. I thought he was absolutely brilliant in that game, getting the assist as well. I thought he played well against Blues. Generally, I think I've yet to see a performance from Aidan Morris that's below a sort of 7 out of 10. I think he's been so consistent across the board, and he's been a real asset for Borough this season. So I do think that's a player that Wolves should absolutely be looking to capitalise on next season. Given the fact that I think his market value is at around £6 million, there's absolutely no chance that I think they'd get that for him. I think you could probably ask for 10 to 15, to be honest, Borough, given the fact that he is very important for them. They're obviously pushing for promotion, but he's absolutely one of them players that I think will have a top career, whether it's in the Championship or the Premier League, and it's a real opportunistic sort of signing for Wolves to try and get in there, although it's very unlikely because of Borough not wanting to sell. Overall, I think it'd be a very interesting signing for Wolves, Aidan Morris. I think he'd be absolutely brilliant for them. I think he's everything that they're crying out for at the moment, so I think if you could bring him in for a few months in the Premier League, get him some Premier League minutes, and then guarantee him sort of assurances that you're going to try your very best to come up next season from the Championship if they do go down, I think it would be absolutely massive. Yes, Borough fans, very unlikely. I completely agree with that. I think he's absolutely brilliant, and Borough, as much as, you know, there's a lot of sort of tension between them and Wolves at the minute, I do think they'll come up. I think it's likely, which is why I think it would be a massive sort of statement to try and go out there and sign him in January. Very unlikely, yes, but a player that I would personally absolutely love to see in the old gold and black. I think he's a top footballer and someone that will go on to have a brilliant career, whether it's in this country or in another country playing a sort of Champions League, Europa League, Conference League sort of side. I think he's got all the potential to do that, and at just 24 years of age, it's an absolute no-brainer for so many clubs to be looking at Aidan Morris either in January or at the end of the season when either Borough come up or they just miss out on promotion. So let me know what you think about Aidan Morris, if you've watched him this season, how impressed you've been with him, things you don't like about him perhaps as well. There are a few things that I think Borough fans may find they don't like with him, but I'd be very surprised to hear them, to be honest, because I think he's been absolutely brilliant all season from my perspective, to be honest. So thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. We're trying to reach 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. It's about 20 subscribers a day on average we need to average, so that would be brilliant. It's very unlikely, but if we could reach 10,000 subscribers, that would be amazing. I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you for watching the Molyneux View.